And speaking of national parks, let me tell you how you can use the phrase I just used there along with other vocabulary in a real story so that you can learn English naturally and more effectively. Welcome to English Coach 3Ts. I'm Tanya. The story I want to share with you today is about a trip that our family took to Monument Valley. But first, I want to tell you how you can use that phrase I just used at the beginning of this video. And speaking about blah, 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 this is a phrase we use in a couple of different ways. But the most common way we use this phrase is to join a conversation. So it's going to be a great way for you to advance your conversation skills with friends or at work. So I recently made a video about Yellowstone National Park. So if I wanted to change the subject from Yellowstone to another park, I could use that phrase by saying, so speaking of national parks, have I told you the story about the time that we went to Monument Valley? So let me tell you about the time our family went to Monument Valley. Monument Valley is on the border between Arizona and Utah. And we took a trip to both states, but we actually stayed just inside the Utah border. The coolest part about this trip was staying in a Hogan. In this picture, you can see that a Hogan looks a little like a mound of dirt with a door. So what does the word mound mean? We can have a mound of something. It can look like a hill, be very big, like the picture, or it can be a small mound of something. Like in this picture, there are 3 small mounds of different types of spices on the plate. Another way that we commonly use this word is to say something like, who left a mound of clothing on the living room floor? So back to the Hogan that looked like a mound of dirt. We had a ton of fun staying in this Hogan. Sometimes it wasn't the most convenient. Hogans are traditional Native American homes, or I should say one of the traditional Native American homes. And so it didn't have all of the creature comforts. We use the phrase creature comforts when we say it doesn't have all the things that make us comfortable, like air conditioning and all of the things that we have in our homes that keep us comfortable. I didn't get any pictures inside the Hogan because one of the creature comforts that I love that it didn't have was windows. In the pictures, you could see it had a door, but it didn't have a light. So it wouldn't be the kind of place I would normally choose to live, but I love to go and experience different things like staying in something that is completely out of the ordinary. One of the creature comforts that was not included in the Hogan was a kitchen and a dining room. So we cooked a lot of all of our food outside and ate at a picnic table like the one in this picture. You can see that it was a little bit chilly. We say it's chilly when it's not cold, but just a little bit cold. We can say it's chilly. You can tell that Tiana and Talia have on their jackets with their hoods, while Trinity isn't wearing a hood. And let's revisit that picture of the Hogan one more time to point out a cultural difference between most of the United States and people who are living on the reservations for the Native Americans. You can see that Talia is holding her dog Delaware, but on the ground there's another dog. On the reservation, there were a lot of animals that were allowed to roam around free. To roam around means just like to walk around. And in the United States, this isn't allowed, particularly in metropolitan areas or cities. But actually, in most places, you have to have your dog on a leash or your donkey or your horse. And so while we were staying there, sometimes when we were sitting at the picnic table, a dog or several dogs actually would come and visit us And once we even had, I think it was a donkey that came to visit us. One of the things we did during that trip was to go horseback riding. The girls loved to go horseback riding, and it afforded us the chance to see some really beautiful scenery. We can say something affords us the chance when we basically just mean it gives us the chance to do something. This is a great word to use in business English or academic writing or anytime you want to sound a little more formal. We got a lot of great pictures with the family and great scenery, but did I get a picture of one of the most famous things there? No. One of the most famous things to see in that area is called the mittens. Even though I didn't get a picture, you can see it in this picture. Why do they call these the mittens? Take a look there and see if you can guess why. So when we're wearing mittens like these, we have all of our fingers together and just the thumb sticking out. So take a look back at that picture and check out the view of those two huge rock formations, which they call monuments, by the way. That's how it got the name Monument Valley. And you can see that it looks like two mittens sticking up out of the ground. Personally, I prefer to wear gloves, but mittens are great to have, especially if you want to keep your fingers warm. We got a lot of great shots for our photo album. I mean, this is what we used to use as a photo album, but these days your photo album probably looks more like this. But let me share some of these shots with you. We love to take funny pictures like this one of Tanya pointing in the opposite direction of the arrow. And this next one would be great if we weren't all squinting. You may have heard me mention this word squinting on my Instagram page before, but because the sun was bright, we were all squinting our eyes like this. But let's go back and check out the sentence I said because it uses kind of a tricky grammar form. I said this one would have been a good picture if. The phrase is conditional, meaning it has a condition in order for something to be true about the sentence. It would have been a great picture if we had had a condition that we didn't have, if we had not been squinting. I like to point out some of these more tricky, difficult grammar forms in context so that you can kind of get used to listening to and hearing them and paying attention to them when you're watching videos or reading. This is one of the best ways to learn these things organically or naturally. I'll spare you the details of every picture, but you can see from these pictures that we had a great time. We use the phrase, I'll spare you the details, or I'll spare you the whole story, to mean I'm not going to say everything because I know you might get bored listening to that. But I thought you might like to see some of the other pictures we took. And I especially wanted to point out this next one where the girls are playing a game called Bananagrams. It's a little difficult to see the game on the table here because it's so cluttered and jumbled with advertisements. But I point out this game because it's such a great family game. You can learn more vocabulary and it's easy to take with you because it comes in this cute little bag that looks like a banana. If you're interested in playing Bananagrams for a fun way to work on vocabulary and spelling and have a great time with your family, I'll leave the link below to find it. One of the highlights of our trip was going to see the place where one of the scenes in the movie Forrest Gump was filmed. If you've seen the movie, you might recognize it. To say that it was the highlight of our trip just means that it was one of the best parts. It was one of the special parts. If you've seen the movie, you might recognize this scene as the place where Forrest finally stops running. He's been running and running and running, and then he has that famous line, "I think I'll go home now." If you haven't seen the movie, it's a great movie and I would recommend it for learning English. If learning English in context with stories like this is helpful for you, be sure to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone who wants to be fluent in English. If you'd like to see another video similar to this one where you can learn vocabulary and phrases in context with stories, take a look at this one. Or if you'd like to see one of our live videos, give this one a try. And don't forget to check out our bloopers. About the National Park Yosemite. No. Yes. No. No, what the heck was that video about? Yellowstone.